I'm a movie guy. Whether it's Elvis or Snake Plissken or Jack Burton or R.J. McCready, that was that project. That was that thing. You get into that mindset. You create that. You want to make that world happen. Just like I used to do interviews.
Kurt Russell just shocked Hollywood by revealing the 7 films that shaped his legendary career. After decades of thrilling audiences, from cult classics to blockbuster hits, the beloved actor has finally opened up about the movies that influenced him the most. His list mixes timeless masterpieces with a few unexpected picks that reveal a personal side fans rarely see. Get ready to be surprised by the stories behind his choices and the cinematic moments that defined him. The Thing. When reflecting on a career that spans more than 5 decades and includes beloved westerns, comedies, and action films, Kurt Russell doesn't hesitate when asked which of his own movies stands out most. "I think The Thing is probably my favorite of the films I've done," he has said. "It just holds up so well, and people seem to love it more every year." That sentiment speaks volumes, not only about the film's remarkable staying power, but also about what The Thing represents to Russell as an actor and collaborator. Released in 1982, John Carpenter's The Thing was initially met with confusion and skepticism. Critics were harsh, calling the film excessively gory and nihilistic, especially when compared to Steven Spielberg's warmly optimistic E.T. the Extraterrestrial, which debuted the same year. Many reviewers failed to appreciate the artistry behind Carpenter's unflinching portrayal of paranoia and survival in an isolated Antarctic outpost. For Russell, who played helicopter pilot R.J. McCready, the initial reception was disappointing, but he trusted the work he and Carpenter had done. Over time, audiences came to agree with him. What was once dismissed as grim and excessive is now widely hailed as a masterpiece of sci-fi horror. Russell's performance as McCready is central to why The Thing has endured. McCready isn't a traditional Hollywood hero. He's flawed, skeptical, and reluctant to take charge. Yet, when the outpost's crew faces an alien life form capable of perfectly imitating its victims, McCready steps into leadership not out of bravado, but necessity. Russell plays him with a mix of quiet intelligence and weary determination. He's not invincible, but he's resilient, observant, and willing to make the hard calls. This subtle heroism, grounded in authenticity rather than theatrics, has become a hallmark of Russell's best performances. Russell has often said he values characters who feel real, men shaped by circumstance rather than destiny, and McCready is a perfect example. There's no glory in his leadership, only a grim acceptance of what needs to be done. That understated approach makes the film's tension more gripping and its moments of horror more impactful. Audiences can imagine themselves in McCready's position, forced to trust no one, even as the world collapses around them. The film's growing reputation over the decades has been gratifying for Russell. The Thing has become a touchstone for genre filmmakers and a cultural reference point for suspense and practical effects. Its innovative creature designs by Rob Bottin remain stunning even by modern standards, and Carpenter's icy, minimalist direction continues to inspire new generations of storytellers. Russell has remarked that part of the film's magic lies in its timelessness. The themes of paranoia, survival, and the fragility of trust feel just as urgent today as they did in 1982. Russell's partnership with Carpenter on The Thing also represents one of the high points of his career-long willingness to take risks. At a time when safer, more conventional roles might have been available, he chose a project that pushed boundaries and defied expectations. That gamble ultimately paid off, not immediately at the box office, but in the film's transformation into a cult classic and a defining moment in science fiction cinema. The Wild Bunch. Kurt Russell has often credited Sam Peckinpah's The Wild Bunch, 1969, as a film that fundamentally reshaped his understanding of westerns and storytelling. He has described it bluntly as a movie that changed westerns forever, and for anyone familiar with both the film and Russell's career, the influence is unmistakable. Peckinpah's gritty, violent masterpiece tore away the mythic, romanticized image of the Old West that had dominated Hollywood for decades. Instead of virtuous sheriffs and noble cowboys, it presented flawed men, aging outlaws, desperate and unrepentant, whose morality was as murky as the dust-choked horizon they rode across. At its heart, The Wild Bunch is a story about survival and obsolescence. The gang of aging criminals, led by Pike Bishop, William Holden, is painfully aware that the world has outgrown them. Civilization is closing in, new technology is replacing old ways, and the code they once lived by no longer fits. Yet, they choose to ride out one last time, defiantly embracing their own violent end rather than fade quietly into irrelevance. Russell has said that this theme of men on the fringes, too unruly for the world they inhabit, has deeply resonated with him and shaped many of his most memorable characters. You can see the fingerprints of the Wild Bunch all over Russell's performances. In John Carpenter's Escape from New York, 1981, his Snake Plissken is practically a futuristic outlaw in the same mold as Peckinpah's bandits, cynical, resourceful, and unwilling to bow to authority. Plissken doesn't fit into the system, yet he operates by his own unspoken code, much like Pike Bishop and his crew. The film's bleak, anti-establishment tone owes more than a little to Peckinpah's groundbreaking Western. Similarly, Big Trouble in Little China, 1986, may be a fantasy action comedy, but Russell's Jack Burton is still a descendant of Peckinpah's defiant gunslingers. Burton is brash, overconfident, and hardly a conventional hero. He bumbles and fails as often as he succeeds, but his refusal to conform and his dogged determination to see things through mark him as part of the same rebellious lineage. Perhaps the clearest echo of the Wild Bunch in Russell's career is his portrayal of Wyatt Earp in Tombstone, 1993. While Tombstone is more polished and romantic than Peckinpah's work, Russell imbues Earp with a complexity that reflects the shift the Wild Bunch ushered in. His Earp is not an unassailable white-hat hero. He is a man of contradictions, haunted by past violence and willing to step outside the law to preserve a sense of justice. Russell has often remarked on how Peckinpah's uncompromising vision, the film's brutal violence, its unflinching portrayal of moral gray areas, and its refusal to glorify the Old West, paved the way for more authentic, challenging Westerns. Without the Wild Bunch, films like Unforgiven or Tombstone might never have been possible in their current form. For Russell, the movie's raw realism and boldness validated his own instincts as an actor, to seek out characters who are not clean-cut heroes or outright villains, but flawed men making hard choices in unforgiving worlds. In honoring the Wild Bunch, Russell isn't merely tipping his hat to a classic. He's acknowledging a film that helped define the type of stories he wanted to tell and the kind of characters he wanted to embody. Through roles that echo Peckinpah's doomed outlaws, Russell has carried forward that spirit of defiance and survival, ensuring that the Western's evolution didn't end in 1969, but continues to ride on in new and unexpected forms. Escape from Alcatraz. Kurt Russell has often expressed admiration for films that eschew flashiness in favor of grounded storytelling and authentic performances. Among those he has praised is Escape from Alcatraz, 1979, the tense prison break thriller starring Clint Eastwood. Directed by Don Siegel, the film dramatizes the real-life 1962 escape attempt from the notorious maximum security prison, a feat long believed impossible. Russell's respect for the movie is rooted in its unflashy realism and understated style, qualities he values deeply as both a viewer and a performer. Unlike many action thrillers of its era, Escape from Alcatraz avoids unnecessary spectacle. Siegel presents the story with a matter-of-fact tone, building tension not through overblown stunts or excessive violence, but through meticulous pacing and quiet suspense. Eastwood's portrayal of inmate Frank Morris is equally restrained. He doesn't rely on overt bravado or dramatic monologues. Instead, he conveys intelligence, resolve, and simmering defiance through subtle expressions and precise movements. This approach resonates strongly with Russell's own acting philosophy, that great performances often depend on what isn't said, on the quiet moments between the action. Russell has built much of his career on that same principle. In films like The Thing, 1982, and Tombstone, 1993, he brings emotional authenticity and nuance to roles that could easily have become one-dimensional. Like Eastwood's Frank Morris, many of Russell's characters, Snake Plissken in Escape from New York or Sheriff Franklin Hunt in Bone Tomahawk, are defined not by loud declarations, but by the quiet, deliberate choices they make under pressure. By praising Escape from Alcatraz, Russell is also highlighting a lineage of performers who elevate genre films through subtlety rather than excess. The film's enduring relevance is another factor Russell admires. Over 4 decades after its release, Escape from Alcatraz remains gripping to new audiences. Its story, built on tension and character rather than outdated special effects, has aged remarkably well. Russell has often emphasized that lasting cinema doesn't rely on trends or technological gimmicks. It rests on strong storytelling and believable performances. In that sense, Siegel's film exemplifies the kind of enduring cinema Russell himself strives to make. The collaboration between Don Siegel and Clint Eastwood on Escape from Alcatraz also reflects something Russell values: a strong bond between actor and director. Much like his own long partnership with John Carpenter, the Eastwood-Siegel pairing was built on mutual trust and a shared creative vision. Russell has spoken before about how a great director can guide a performance without overshadowing it, a balance Siegel achieved with Eastwood. Furthermore, the film's themes, resilience, ingenuity, and the human desire for freedom align with Russell's recurring on-screen persona. His characters often exist on society's fringes, forced to navigate impossible odds with resourcefulness and grit. Frank Morris's calculated escape plan and quiet determination could easily be mirrored in one of Russell's roles, making Escape from Alcatraz a natural touchstone for him. By speaking favorably of Escape from Alcatraz, Russell not only honors Eastwood's iconic performance, but also underscores the qualities he believes make a movie timeless: honesty in storytelling, precision in craft, and characters who feel undeniably real. Just as the film has stood the test of time, Russell's own work reflects the same dedication to authenticity and staying power, ensuring that both actor and film continue to resonate with audiences decades later. Bullitt Kurt Russell has often spoken with genuine enthusiasm about Bullitt, 1968, the iconic thriller that helped define modern action cinema. Directed by Peter Yates and starring Steve McQueen, the film is perhaps best remembered for its heart-pounding car chase through the streets of San Francisco, widely considered one of the greatest ever filmed. But for Russell, the appeal of Bullitt goes beyond fast cars and technical brilliance. McQueen had that thing, effortless cool. Bullitt was the kind of movie that made you want to be him, Russell once said, capturing the essence of what makes McQueen's performance so enduring. Steve McQueen's portrayal of Frank Bullitt, a stoic San Francisco cop caught in a web of conspiracy, epitomized a kind of minimalism that spoke louder than words. McQueen rarely raised his voice or made grand speeches. Instead, he conveyed intensity and authority through subtle expressions, deliberate movements, and that signature, unflappable demeanor. Russell, whose own acting style is often praised for its restraint, has clearly taken a page from McQueen's playbook. Like McQueen, he understands that sometimes a glance, a smirk, or a quiet moment can communicate more than pages of dialogue ever could. This influence is evident throughout Russell's filmography. In Escape from New York, 1981, his Snake Plissken is a man of few words, relying on body language and dry wit to convey character. The same understated charisma can be seen in Tombstone, 1993, where Russell's Wyatt Earp doesn't dominate every scene with speeches, but instead commands attention with presence and quiet resolve. Even in the comedic chaos of Big Trouble in Little China, 1986, Russell uses his expressive face and perfectly timed reactions to make Jack Burton memorable without overplaying him. Russell's appreciation for McQueen's style also reflects his belief that great action heroes aren't defined by invincibility or theatrics, but by authenticity. Bullitt itself was groundbreaking in its realism, from its gritty depiction of police work to its decision to shoot on location rather than on backlot sets. McQueen, who famously did much of his own driving during the chase sequences, brought a tangible physicality to the role. Russell has shown a similar commitment to authenticity, often performing his own stunts or immersing himself in the physical aspects of his characters to make them believable. Beyond its technical achievements, Bullitt left a cultural mark that Russell clearly admires. McQueen's simple dark turtleneck, shoulder holster, and unshakable demeanor became shorthand for a new kind of screen hero, one who didn't need to shout to make an impression. This subtle coolness has influenced generations of actors, Russell included. His ability to project confidence without bravado, to balance toughness with vulnerability, and to create characters who feel lived in and real owes much to the trail McQueen blazed. Russell's praise for Bullitt is also a recognition of how a single performance can change the trajectory of a genre. Just as Bullitt transformed the action thriller into something more grounded and sophisticated, Russell's own performances have often elevated genre films by infusing them with depth and nuance. Whether playing a weary gunslinger, a reluctant hero, or a wisecracking adventurer, he channels that McQueen-like sense of ease, a quality that makes his characters timeless. In celebrating Bullitt and Steve McQueen's effortless cool, Russell isn't merely reminiscing about a classic film. He's acknowledging an artistic lineage, one that values understatement over spectacle and quiet confidence over bluster. Like McQueen before him, Russell has built a career on performances that endure not because they shout the loudest, but because they ring true. The Godfather. Though Kurt Russell has never officially placed The Godfather, 1972, among his personal top favorites, he has openly acknowledged its greatness and cultural significance. Francis Ford Coppola's epic crime saga is not merely a classic of American cinema. It is frequently cited as one of the greatest films ever made. Russell's recognition of its power reflects a broader aspect of his own sensibilities as an actor. A deep appreciation for timeless storytelling, masterful craftsmanship, and the kind of artistry that transcends genres and generations. Released in 1972, The Godfather redefined what a gangster film could be. Rather than a straightforward crime thriller, Coppola's film presented the Corleone family's story as an operatic examination of loyalty, power, and the corrupting influence of ambition. Its combination of intimate character studies and sweeping narrative scope elevated genre filmmaking into high art. For an actor like Russell, who values substance over spectacle, acknowledging The Godfather's excellence speaks to his respect for films that balance compelling drama with technical brilliance. Coppola's meticulous direction, combined with Mario Puzo's source material, created a rich world where every detail felt authentic. From the smoky interiors of the Corleone compound to the quiet menace of the family's business dealings. Russell, who has worked with visionary directors like John Carpenter and Quentin Tarantino, understands how much a filmmaker's dedication to craft can shape a film's legacy. Like many actors of his generation, he would have seen The Godfather not just as entertainment, but as a blueprint for how ambitious, risk-taking storytelling could elevate the medium. The performances in The Godfather are legendary. Marlon Brando's understated, world-weary Don Vito Corleone, Al Pacino's chilling transformation from reluctant son to ruthless mob boss Michael, and supporting turns from James Caan, Robert Duvall, and Diane Keaton. Russell's own style, favoring authenticity, subtle gestures, and emotional truth over overt theatrics, aligns with what these performances achieved. He has often praised actors who can express volumes with the smallest shift in expression, a skill Brando and Pacino displayed masterfully throughout the film. Russell's acknowledgement of The Godfather also reveals his understanding of cinema's cultural impact. The film's influence stretches far beyond Hollywood. Its lines, characters, and imagery have become woven into popular culture, referenced and parodied across decades. Even Russell's own genre films, whether westerns like Tombstone or thrillers like The Thing, benefit from the narrative boldness that Coppola's masterpiece helped make mainstream. The Godfather demonstrated that audiences would embrace morally complex characters and stories that resisted easy resolution, a lesson that resonates with Russell's preference for playing flawed human heroes. Moreover, The Godfather's success validated filmmakers who sought to combine commercial appeal with serious artistry. Its box office triumph and critical acclaim proved that ambitious, character-driven stories could still captivate wide audiences. Russell's career choices, from the dystopian grit of Escape from New York to the emotionally charged Western Bone Tomahawk, reflect a similar belief that films can be thrilling and meaningful at the same time. Kurt Russell has never been shy about naming Shane, 1953, George Stevens's iconic Western, as one of the finest examples of the genre. "If you want to see a great Western, Shane is one of the best," he once remarked, a simple but heartfelt statement that reflects how profoundly the film affected him. For Russell, Shane isn't just a cinematic masterpiece, it's a touchstone for understanding character, morality, and restraint in storytelling. The film tells the story of a weary gunslinger, Shane, played by Alan Ladd, who drifts into a small Wyoming valley seeking peace and anonymity. Hoping to leave violence behind, he becomes entangled in a struggle between homesteaders and ruthless cattle barons. Russell has said that this narrative of a man wrestling with his past and the temptations of violence resonates deeply with him. He understands the tension between who a person wants to be and who circumstances sometimes force them to become. Alan Ladd's performance in Shane left a lasting impression on Russell. Ladd chose subtlety over bravado, communicating volumes through quiet gestures and measured expressions rather than loud declarations. This understated approach was a revelation to Russell, who grew up surrounded by Hollywood spectacle as the son of actor Bing Russell. Where many Western heroes of the era projected dominance with flashy gunplay and booming voices, Ladd made restraint into a powerful statement. Russell internalized that lesson early on, shaping the way he would later portray complex men in morally ambiguous situations. This philosophy is clearly visible in Russell's own westerns, especially Tombstone, 1993, and Bone Tomahawk, 2015. In Tombstone, Russell's Wyatt Earp is not a swaggering caricature of frontier justice, but a man visibly weighed down by responsibility and past choices. He doesn't command every scene with grandstanding speeches. Instead, his quiet authority and controlled emotions make Earp's eventual eruptions of violence even more impactful. The same can be said for Bone Tomahawk, where Russell plays Sheriff Franklin Hunt with a measured dignity. Even in a film that veers into horror, Russell resists melodrama, anchoring the story with the same mix of grit and tenderness that made Ladd's Shane so compelling. Russell's admiration for Shane also reflects his appreciation for westerns as moral tales rather than simple shoot-'em-ups. Stevens' film asks hard questions about loyalty, violence, and redemption. Shane himself is a man who knows the cost of pulling a trigger, and Russell has often spoken about how that awareness makes westerns uniquely powerful. It's not about the gunfights, it's about the choices leading up to them and the emotional weight that follows. In a career that has spanned decades and genres, Russell has frequently returned to the Western, not for nostalgia's sake, but because of what films like Shane taught him. That restraint can be more compelling than excess, and that even a hardened gunslinger can carry profound emotional depth. By channeling Alan Ladd's quiet heroism, Russell has helped keep the spirit of Shane alive in modern cinema, proving that a Western can be both thrilling entertainment and a moving exploration of character. For Russell, the lessons of Shane are timeless, and his work ensures that future generations of moviegoers will feel their power too. 2001. A Space Odyssey. Stanley Kubrick's 2001, A Space Odyssey, 1968, stands as one of cinema's most revolutionary achievements, and Kurt Russell has never hesitated to express his awe for it. Kubrick did something with 2001 that nobody had ever seen before. It's one of those movies that changed everything, he once said. For Russell, the film was not just a landmark in science fiction, but a revelation about what cinema could be, how it could bend genres, redefine storytelling, and challenge audiences to think differently about the art form itself. Kubrick's groundbreaking work shattered expectations by blending cutting-edge special effects, sparse dialogue, and profound philosophical questions about humanity's place in the universe. From its silent, hypnotic opening shots to the haunting HAL 9000 sequences, 2001 demanded that viewers engage intellectually and emotionally in ways most mainstream films of the time didn't. Russell's admiration for this level of daring is no surprise. Throughout his own career, he has gravitated toward projects that took risks and subverted conventional storytelling. Russell's choice of collaborators reveals just how much he values boundary-pushing filmmakers. His long partnership with director John Carpenter exemplifies that same fearlessness he praises in Kubrick. In The Thing, 1982, Russell starred as helicopter pilot R.J. MacReady in a film that turned the alien invasion trope inside out. Far from a simple monster movie, The Thing was unsettling, ambiguous, and unapologetically bleak, much like Kubrick's willingness to leave audiences unsettled by 2001's enigmatic ending. Carpenter and Russell refused to offer easy answers, echoing the spirit of innovation and audacity that defined Kubrick's masterpiece. Their earlier collaboration on Escape from New York, 1981, also bears the influence of Kubrick's boundary-breaking ethos. The dystopian tale of Snake Plissken, an anti-hero forced to rescue the president from a lawless Manhattan, didn't play by the rules of traditional action films. Carpenter's grim, satirical vision and Russell's restrained, sardonic performance created a world that felt dangerous and unpredictable. It wasn't just escapist entertainment, it was a challenge to Hollywood's formulaic narratives, much like 2001 had challenged science fiction a decade earlier. Even Big Trouble in Little China, 1986, which on the surface seems like a madcap martial arts fantasy comedy, reflects Kubrick's influence indirectly. Russell's Jack Burton isn't a flawless, invincible hero, but a bumbling everyman swept up in forces he doesn't understand. A playful subversion of genre expectations. Kubrick, too, had delighted in confounding viewers' expectations, mixing tones and defying categorization. Russell's later work with Quentin Tarantino on Death Proof, 2007, and The Hateful Eight, 2015, continues this pattern. Tarantino, like Kubrick, is known for pushing boundaries, and Russell has thrived in environments where directors are unafraid to take big creative swings. His willingness to align himself with visionary storytellers suggests that Kubrick's lesson, cinema should surprise, challenge, and innovate, has stayed with him throughout his career. In praising 2001, A Space Odyssey, Russell isn't merely offering casual admiration for a classic film. He's acknowledging a turning point in cinema that shaped his own artistic compass. Kubrick proved that films could transcend entertainment to become transformative experiences, and Russell has consistently sought out roles and collaborators that carry forward that same spirit of fearless experimentation. Through his choices, Russell keeps alive the legacy of 2001, that movies can and should change everything. What do you think about Kurt Russell's favorite movies? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this, and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.